All right, so our next main topic today is going to be about the DC Universe streaming service, and more specifically, how it seems like we're coming to an end of the DC streaming service. And let me explain here. A lot of key factors really go into this, to where there's been a lot of talk online that pretty much ever since HBO Max was announced, a lot of people were wondering, well, what's going to happen with the DC streaming service then? Because, Warner owns HBO. HBO is going to have, Warner owns DC. And what's kind of the point of having, two different places with DC content? The only kind of the question mark around any of that was the fact that the DC streaming app does let you look at comics like digitally and everything. So that was kind of the only caveat to it, is that HBO isn't necessarily, it doesn't seem like something that would be, typically integrated into like HBO's platform. But at the same time, it's a kind of a catch that, HBO Max having would be a nice marketing and advertising for them, much like they were marketing the fact that they have all the DC content. They were using that in the HBO Max marketing right before they, were launching the service and everything. So them just kind of absorbing the DC Universe app and just making it a part of HBO Max, it just kind of made sense. And with HBO Max existing, it didn't really make sense to keep the DC Universe app as its own service. And the reason I bring this up is because I feel like the final nail in the coffin has come out, that at least suggests the fact that the DC Universe's days are in fact numbered. And that is because of this, Rick. If you go to the DC Universe streaming website, there used to be an option for you to actually be able to pay for an annual subscription or a monthly subscription. At this point in time, the annual subscription is no longer an option. You can only subscribe monthly.
Makes you wonder why.
Exactly. And probably because they don't know if they're going to be here in a year, so they don't want you to pay for a year. That would be the most educated guess I could give. On top of that, I don't have this graphic, but there was, right before HBO Max came out, or around the time shortly after it came out, there was an exclusive offer for DC Universe members to add on the HBO Max subscription exclusively for DC Universe, like current subscribers. When they ran this promotion, you could add on the HBO Max service for like an extra $5.99 a month. So that's just kind of another thing that goes into the fact that, why would they be offering like that? And then,
Yeah.
like, it made sense for them to offer it just because they own like both, right? Like it's like Hulu did the same thing with Disney Plus and ESPN Plus, right, or whatever. Like, you could buy all three, you could buy two, whatever it is. It makes sense. But the fact that they ran that promotion, then removed the annual subscription option from the DC Universe streaming service altogether, added on to the fact that, which I think is probably, like, in all reality, the most telling factor, is that pretty much all of the DC Universe streaming service exclusive shows are no longer exclusive to DC Universe. You got the Stargirl show that is going to be moving to CW. You have the Harley Quinn show that is moving to HBO Max and has already been airing on Sci-Fi, I believe. Then you have Doom Patrol season 2 came out on HBO Max, and that was probably, speaking of Doom Patrol season 2 being on HBO Max, that was probably everybody's first indication that the DC streaming service was like dead in the water.
Yeah.
Because when news came out essentially that Doom Patrol got renewed for a season 2, the news with it was the fact that season 2 was going to be airing on HBO Max.
Yeah.
So, and that was prior to HBO Max launching yet. So that was just Doom Patrol came out, they renewed it for season 2. But that news in general was that it was not only being renewed for season 2, it's being renewed and being put on HBO Max. So I feel like that was probably our first kind of indication that
Seems like everything's leaving. Like,
Yeah, because that's the whole point of a streaming service, right? There's no reason to subscribe to Netflix, we'll say, if you can watch all of that stuff somewhere else. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
like the
yeah,
whole point of your product is to have those things that you're the only place that has it. That's the whole
exactly.
point.
That's
You know,
the whole streaming service
yeah,
idea.
you corner the market. It's the idea with like any sort of product, trademarks in general. That's why they exist. You want an Xbox, play an Xbox game. You know that's why they're exclusives, right? You got to get the Xbox to play Gears of War. This is what it is. Like that's how it works. If Gears of War is available on Nintendo Switch and PS4 and PC, you're cutting into the market of, you can't you Xbox can no longer corner that market. It's just something they lose. There's no incentive, right? Like I have no incentive at this point to get the DC Universe app unless it's to read the comics,
Yeah.
which is like again, that's a great thing and they should keep that. But I don't know. Like I just feel like with this, the writing's kind of on the wall and I think they're probably going to be either just closing the service down altogether. At least as far as I don't know if they're gonna keep what do you think they're gonna do here? Do you think they'll
Uh,
just rope the whole thing into because these are the options I think they could do anyway, is just rope it into HBO Max like a subcategory, right? Just because now if you go to
yeah.
HBO Max, like there's a category for DC, you click on it, maybe it just reroutes you to the DC Universe app. And that's where they keep everything there, right? And it's just they just build it in, and it's just the same thing all the content that was on DC Universe, including the comics and everything. You click on DC and HBO Max, and boom, there it is.
Yeah, yeah.
Or all the streaming content, the movies, the DC TV shows, all of that stuff. Pull that into HBO Max, then keep the DC Universe streaming service alive just for the comics. So it's just rope it into DC's a digital comics
Yeah,
service.
yeah.
You know,
Instead of it being like an actual streaming service,
yeah. Instead of
it's
it being like a one-stop shop for DC movies, TV, comics, and everything. Just make it their new digital store for comics, and
yeah.
you could still subscribe to it, maybe even for cheaper, because it's just the comics as opposed to it having actual content and everything. Because at this point, the only show that hasn't announced it's being moved to a new service is Titan. Like Titan season 3 is still at this point in time still slated to be released on this app, but
Sounds like it's just a bit of a mess all around.
I mean it is. They like I don't know. I feel like with HBO Max too, it's just kind of this is another because we talked about it before how they kind of botched the whole launch and
Yeah,
like you can even see on the DC site here, it's available on Fire TV, it's available on Roku. HBO Max isn't.
yeah,
Like you can't get HBO Max on Fire TV or Roku, which are the two most popular streaming devices, in people's homes right now. So like I feel like them kind of mismanaging this whole I don't know if you can really call it mismanagement, but it's like I feel like it is a bit of mismanagement because had they just had the foresight to kind of like they could have leaned on like this DC streaming service, HBO Max could have leaned on it for their marketing. They could have been like for one, they could have just given everybody who had a subscription to DC Universe just instantly say, you now have an HBO Max subscription, and
yeah,
everything that it was on DC Universe is going to be on HBO Max. Done. You know what I mean? Then advertise to the new people when you subscribe to HBO Max, you're going to get everything that's on the DC Universe app because it's being absorbed into HBO Max. Like, bam. So I feel like it was a little bit of mismanagement on their part for the sheer fact that they could have just like exploited the shit out of this thing existing. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like it's funny because they even say down here, I just saw this. Currently $7.99 for that monthly subscription. They have the fine print of the annual subscription down here,
But there's no
but
option.
there's no option.
Yeah,
So,
weird.
but yeah, so that's what it used to be. It used to be $75 a year or $8 a month. I don't know, man. It would be kind of a shame. I feel like for anybody who did like the DC streaming service, but at the same time, I mean, no one's really losing anything as long as
No,
everything is just being moved somewhere else.
exactly.
The only thing I don't like though is the way they've been. Like I said, The Stargirl show is on CW. The Swamp Thing show is on CW.
Sweet.
The Harley Quinn show is on HBO Max. The Doom Patrol is on HBO Max. I assume Titans is probably going to go to HBO Max because it had a little more R-rated material in there. So like, I just don't like the fact that they're now like kind of dividing where their shit is.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that is what I don't really like.
Choose one.
Yeah,
and
like just make it
stick
all
with it.
available on HBO Max. I feel like that's
Yeah.
again, I think they just mismanaged kind of how that's going.
I think that's the issue with DC, kind of. So, if you've got to go to all these different places to stream different shows that you like, I mean,
Well, that's the thing. It'd be different if like that's how the shows like existed to begin with. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? If
yeah.
Stargirl came out and if the DC Universe app existed from the beginning, they were saying like because a lot of, like think about it like kind of I like how HBO not HBO but how Hulu works as far as the new shows because like Hulu will have licensing deals with like current on-air television programming. So they'll get to watch, let's just say the like This Is Us or something on
Yeah.
ABC or NBC, whatever it is. You'll be able to watch it on Hulu the day after it airs on the ABC or network, whatever channel it's on. You can watch it the next day on Hulu. If from the start the DC app was kind of the same way but opposite to where you can watch everything first on the DC service, and then it goes to, CW afterward. Then I guess that would have made sense if they would have kinda built the foundations to be a exclusive thing for getting the content first on DC Universe, as opposed to, like, well, now it's just we don't know what the fuck to do with any of our shows because HBO Max has taken everything and, like but HBO Max doesn't want CW or, like, Stargirl because it's not really the kind of HBO kind of show, so, like, this is what it kinda seems like anyway. And I just feel like it's just kinda mismanaged to that degree, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think it's that big of a deal as long as nobody loses anything again. Like, I think that's the main thing because it is kinda shitty, though, because HBO Max is like twice the price. So if you're used to only paying $8 a month and you only wanted the DC stuff, now you don't have that option, which again, mismanaged, right? Like I feel like
Yeah.
if HBO Max wanted to just absorb the content, then I feel like they should have just done that and just I don't really see the harm of keeping the DC Universe app or service exactly how it is, but then just include that shit on HBO Max.
Yeah.
Like, and
Yeah.
just like, because then it's like people who don't want the HBO Max stuff don't have to buy it, and just make kind of like an upgrade feature. Like, you for $8 a month for DC, and you get all the DC stuff. But if you pay 16 a month, you get HBO Max, and it has all the DC stuff and all the HBO Max stuff. So I mean, I feel like that would have been a better option.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
who knows? I mean, I'm just kind of splitting hairs here. It's just I thought it was kind of interesting the fact that everyone kind of speculated, what was the point of it being around if you're gonna have HBO Max anyway? And
Yeah,
again, we're just getting more and more indications that the DC service is just dead at this
How many
point.
streaming services even exist at this point?
Well, dude, that's the other thing, and that's why it's like kind of a more surprising that HBO Max kind of botched their launch and like because like we're essentially entering what everybody's calling the streaming wars now.
Yeah.
Everybody has their own streaming service. Peacock
Peacock.
just launched, and like apparently, this isn't a main topic or anything, but let's touch on it now since we're kind of talking about it. They got the numbers for Peacock's like launch, and it was like 12% of what Disney Plus's was.
Damn.
So it was a very small launch. We'll say like
That's
it's not a
nothing
lot of
big at
people.
all.
At the same time, though, like at least with Peacock, they're doing something a little different. Like they have the free version of the show or the service that gets you like to some stuff and there's ads, but then there's a paid version that gets you more stuff with ads, and then there's like another third tier that's like even more stuff and like no ads or something. But
Yeah.
it's like which I guess is like interesting as far as the model goes, but at the same time I just feel like that's just kind of putting shit behind paywalls, which
Yeah,
is like really annoying in my
yeah,
opinion. Because
that is annoying.
I just prefer if Peacock's most expensive one is $20, then just have a fucking $20 one and a free one with ads.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
I don't want it's like
Don't have so many
yeah,
options.
you're just gonna like confuse people. I feel like at that point, and it's like no one wants to read a list of like it's like having to look through the TV guide. You remember having to do that?
Oh yeah,
Like, oh, when's my show gonna be on? Okay, I
yeah.
can do this, and then I can do this, and then at 8 p.m. we got this.
Back
But
when you had to actually like
yeah,
read it out of a book.
yeah, exactly. And it's like I feel like with having these multiple tiers that unlock some content and not other content, you got to be like, well, what are the shows I get with the free one? And let me read through them all. Then okay,
Yeah,
now I got to look at the next step up to see if that's worth it to me. And it's
exactly. If
like
there's any advantage to that or
yeah, and it's
whatever.
like that's just too convoluted, man. Like in my opinion, I haven't really looked into it because I don't really have any desire to watch anything that's on there, and I already have too many goddamn streaming services as it is.
Yeah.
Like I got Hulu, I got Netflix, I got HBO Max, I got the DC service, I got just too much, man. Like that's already too much. Like I
Yeah.
don't need it. Like and on top of just like all the stuff I can watch on YouTube. It's like y'all are throwing too much stuff at me, and you can't
YouTube's
forget
been like my
Quibi.
number one. I just watch all kinds of random shit on
I
YouTube.
do anymore. Like most of the stuff I watch is on YouTube
Yeah.
because a lot of time, like even though like we do like a more long form show here, and we have like clips that go up and everything, it's a little more short form and everything, but a lot of times like because that's kind of the main things I'll do is I'll either like have like a long form kind of podcast kind of show or just something on YouTube, or like, a lot of times, I just have so little time that just watching, like, a short, 10, 20, 30-minute video on YouTube about something
Yeah.
is just far more convenient to me than, watching one 30-minute or even hour-long, part, of a 10-episode series that's like a drama, and I gotta
Did
pay
you
attention, and it's, like, too much.
Speaking of that, did you ever hear that streaming service Quibi, is it called?
Yeah, Quibi, I just
Basically
said that, yeah.
yeah, like, with those, they're short episodes, aren't they?
Mhm.
Like, every episode's short, so
I
that
think it
makes
was
it
supposed to be, like, 5 to 10 minutes,
that's crazy, but
but they're not doing any better than Peacock's doing.
no, it's basically taking one long show that's maybe an hour or 2 long and then just cutting it in, like, 5-minute segments.
Right, and that's the thing too, like I feel like a lot of the problems Quibi had was the fact that, like, they didn't let you watch it on like, it was only available on mobile devices.
That's
If I'm
stupid.
remembering it correctly, like, they didn't even have an option for you to watch it on your TV.
Yeah.
Like, because it was like, oh, I don't know if they just, like, overlooked it, didn't want it, like, because I know their initial thing was designing it to, like, watch essentially bite-sized pieces of long form content on the go.
Yeah.
That was what they were going
That was
for.
yeah, I think the whole premise of it.
But at the same time, I don't wanna watch long form content in little bite-sized pieces.
Yeah, that kind of yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Because it's
The
already
convenience factor's there, but at the same time, it's just
I
you
feel
break it up so much.
I feel like it's more of an inconvenience.
I
Because
mean, maybe it is.
imagine Game of Thrones, okay? An hour-long episode. There's 10 episodes, right? So you got 10 hours of content, but on Quibi, you can only do 5 to 10-minute episodes at a time.
That would
You've
be
literally that's
ridiculous.
10 times as long to get through an entire season of Game of Thrones now, because they're not just gonna drop it all for you to watch it at
No,
once.
no.
They're gonna do it week by week, so you get these 10-minute episodes of
Oh, that'd take
an hour.
years to put out.
That's what I'm
Like,
saying. It's like I find
stupid.
that more inconvenient, especially if you're watching it and it ends on a cliffhanger and it's only 10 minutes long, and now you're expected to wait a week or whatever it
Yeah,
is for
to see
another
the next
10
10
minutes.
minutes of footage,
Yeah,
yeah.
like no, dude. Like I don't want that.
I
Like
think
that's
that's gonna
horrible.
be, like, their downfall.
I think that is their downfall. I think that's the
I was gonna say, I know it's not very popular.
no, and that's kind of the problem with it is like I feel like they had a good intention, but didn't realize like I don't know. It's just not some. It's not. It's good on paper, not in principle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it's just. It really would just depend on the release schedule for everything. Because the only cool thing I thought that like they did do was how you could have your phone and you could watch it in like landscape or portrait mode.
Yeah.
So like in the like it would be like a seamless train. And I don't know. I just saw them advertising, and I don't even know how fluid that works. But
Ooh.
like you were supposed to be able to watch it while you're walking, and the aspect ratio would be perfectly fit, like and centered, and it would be filmed to fit because it's not like, when you watch something now, if you watch a movie on your phone in portrait mode, you get like this big of a box.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you got to flip it to landscape, the real way of watching shit.
Yeah.
That's why I always hate when people take pictures of people, or I'm watching them take pictures of like scenery or something, and they're like this.
In portrait mode,
Yeah, I'm
exactly.
like, dude, turn this shit sideways. What is wrong with you? When did you go to a movie
Well,
theater?
phones
and do
nowadays
shit
too,
like
you
this?
take shit in what is it, landscape mode, and like it'll automatically put it into like the portrait style, like
Mhm.
so it's not going to upload a sideways picture.
Right.
The phone just
Exactly.
knows.
Yeah, it's just a better aspect ratio
Yeah,
for your
definitely.
pictures, man. Like just how it's supposed to be. But yeah, I don't know. Quibi, I have no
Quibi,
interest in Quibi.
Quibi.
I don't like the name Quibi.
I don't
Quibi's
like.
better than Peacock.
Yeah, yeah.
Like anything's better than Peacock. That's not really saying much.
Like we should name it Peacock.
But yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think? Are you guys think with everything we just talked about with the DC, the DC stuff, for instance, is do you agree that his days are essentially numbered at this point? Just with the shows being on HBO Max, CW, what have you? No more annual subscriptions. And also, do you think they should just absorb everything into HBO Max and just make it its own thing, like just another subset of HBO Max? Or do you think they should keep the DC Universe thing alive as its own separate thing? Just like I said, so you don't have to pay $16 a month for the HBO stuff if you don't want the HBO stuff. You know what I mean? Just let us know down in the comment section below.